Welcome to Mom Enough Live. I'm Erin Erickson, and I'm super excited for our program today. We're going to be talking about digital equity, and our guest today is Stacey Nelson-Kumar. She serves as Director of Community Impact for Comcast Twin Cities region, where she's responsible for managing community partnerships and charitable giving in an effort to bridge the digital divide. She focuses the majority of her time on digital equity initiatives such as Internet Essentials and building relationships within the community. Stacey's career in community relations spans nearly 20 years across several companies, industries, and geographies. She graduated from Washington University in St. Louis with a dual master's degree in social work and business administration and a bachelor's degree in psychology from Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington. Stacey, thank you so much for joining us, and we're just thrilled to have you here today to represent Comcast and the amazing work that Comcast is doing to address issues of digital equity. And so I'm super excited to have you today.
Thank you so much, Erin. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's nice to be back.
Yes, I know. This is Stacey's second time on a Mom Enough Live, so we're super happy to have her again. So connectivity to the internet is more important than ever. And we're hearing a lot about digital equity lately. I know as in my work, a lot of my patients are struggling to get connected to the internet, especially with kids doing school from home. Can you tell us more about what it really is and what you are seeing specifically in the Twin Cities as it relates to digital equity?
Right. Well, it's interesting because there's really been an evolution to digital equity. The digital divide is what I think a lot of people refer to. And that was actually first identified in 1995, if you can believe it, that the Department of Commerce had identified that as an issue. And so it's sort of evolved. And I'm really glad we're talking now more about digital equity, making sure that there's access and equipment and skill training for any person. And so that's really what it is. It's access to internet connectivity, it's access to a device, and access to learning, training, whatever type of information someone might need to do to be able to fully participate in society. So within the Twin Cities, it's been an issue for several years, but I think we're hearing so much more about it now because of the pandemic. A lot of things have been heightened throughout the pandemic. And so within the Twin Cities, what we see is a real focus on digital equity and sometimes even a lack of understanding of what that actually means depending on the community. So for example, I think a lot of times people focus on the internet connection when in fact it's more than that. It's not complicated, it's complex. It takes many different pieces to achieve digital equity. And so we know in the Twin Cities, there are several internet service providers, including Comcast. And so the internet access is there, but then we can start to focus more on adoption. And that is really the equity issue to address within the Twin Cities. The internet's there, but there's obviously some barriers to getting the internet into the homes that need it. And so trying to assess what that barrier is and how we can overcome it.
Oh, that's so helpful to understand because, yes, there seems to be a plethora of options to get connected, but it's clear that not everybody is connected and that there's real disparity in who is connected and who isn't. And that's
Exactly.
Definitely an issue that we really care about at Mom Enough because connection to the internet is connection to information. And in today's world, it's really connection to the broader global community. So I really appreciate that understanding. So what are some of the challenges with digital equity?
I think I spoke to one of them already in terms of just understanding what it really is in the community that's being served. So in rural Minnesota, absolutely we know that there are actual access issues, but in the Twin Cities, it's more about the adoption. So the challenges can really be, getting involved at that very grassroots level to understand what the issue is, what's the barrier. Is it cost? Is it lack of maybe understanding the process to get signed up for low cost internet? Is it a language barrier? Is it a cultural barrier? There's lots of dimensions to it in terms of what needs to be overcome so that the family, the children can be connected for school, the adults can be connected for telehealth, as you know, or job searching, or even just accessing basic resources. So it's the challenge is really understanding it at that very grassroots level, and then we can talk about the solutions, because the solutions vary, obviously, depending on what that real issue is.
Yeah. So what are some solutions being offered?
Well, I think because the digital equity issue has received so much attention, there are more solution opportunities than ever. In particular, a lot of federal focus with funding coming into our communities to help support this issue. But I can speak from a Comcast perspective. And I mean, you mentioned in my introduction, Internet Essentials. And so that's our core program. That's our core digital equity program that Comcast has had for over 10 years. It's really got the three components to it in terms of the internet access, the device, accessibility, and the digital training opportunities. But I think what gets the most attention usually is the internet access. And so it's available to qualified families for $9.95 a month. And so that's one of the core solutions in terms of getting that low cost internet into the home. The other solutions relate to those devices. We know through the pandemic that there were even some supply chain shortages, but people can purchase a computer through the Internet Essentials program at a discounted price. But there are a lot of other opportunities. There are a lot of places that refurbish computers that will provide them. We know a lot of schools had to provide the devices for one-to-one devices for learning. And so there's the devices. I think there's still probably some gaps in devices, but it's not as significant as the gap in that literacy or the adoption, like I mentioned. And so with that, the solution is, I think, is really working to understand the barriers, like I mentioned, and then addressing those specifically. So, for example, we've got the low cost option. So that's one of the options to make sure if it's a cost barrier that's there. If it's just the need for our understanding the process, we work a lot with organizations, nonprofit organizations in the community that are serving the families that qualify for Internet Essentials or are having trouble getting connected to the internet. And so those organizations play a critical role in working directly with families to help them get that connection. That, I think, is one of the biggest solutions, is supporting those organizations that are working directly with the families. That's what it takes. It takes that trusted person to come in and say, here's how you do it. This is what it means. This is how you connect these wires. This is how you understand what this means so you can make an informed decision. This is how you access email. So those types of things, I think, are part of the solution, is getting really at that basic level of connectivity, and then helping them expand their learning opportunities as a result.
Well, that makes so much sense. I have several patients who are a bit older and really didn't have a lot of exposure to the internet or computers. And I know that that's a real challenge for people, is some of those really foundational things that maybe seem like second nature to a lot of us might be hard to get connected if you don't really know what any of this is. You don't know how to do email. Sometimes I'll have patients who say things like, oh, I've got my relatives coming over. They come over once a week to help me order things online. And so, I mean, It sounds so simple to us because it's so much of it is at the click of a finger, really, on our phones or on our computers. But the reality is not everybody is connected. Not everybody knows how to get connected. So I think that's really important for us to be aware. And I love hearing about community partnerships, and I know that's a huge part of the work Comcast is doing to support, really bridge the digital divide and help people get connected and get access, and that's hugely important. And we're also going to link at the end of this Facebook Live, we'll link to some helpful information. So if you want to learn more about anything we're talking about today, we're going to have some helpful resources for you that will help you get connected or help you help other people get connected. So I think we all play a really important role in this, because we can really help bridge that divide by sharing information and helping other people and other communities or organizations we're involved with be a part of this.
I think it's really, if I may add, I think it's really about those community partnerships, the partnerships that we had, that we continue to learn about the issue ourselves. Like I said, Internet Essentials has been around for 10 years, and Comcast has been focusing on digital equity for that long. And yeah, we continue to learn new things. So I wanted to share too some of the other programs that are out there to help people get connected. We recognize through some of those partnerships that the Internet Essentials in the home isn't enough. Like sometimes the students were too young to stay at home. If their parents had to be at work, they're too young to stay home and do that distance learning, or they needed some of that academic support in a setting. So we launched a Lift Zone initiative where we do specifically partner with community organizations so that they can be learning hubs. And that's the best way to describe it, is we wire them with internet, with high-speed internet, so that those students, or it's expanding too to not just students, those adults, but anyone coming in to do some learning can access the internet very easily and also have some of those supports built around them. The other thing that we've discovered is that sometimes the $9.95 is still a barrier for families. And so looking at how to get people connected, but even but being creative about the ways that that service can be paid for. It launched, what it really did was create the Internet Essentials Partnership Program, where Comcast works with additional community partners, a lot of times at school districts, who then serve as the sponsors for Internet Essentials service. So basically the family still gets the benefits that are part of Internet Essentials, but the bill for the service actually goes to the sponsor. And as I mentioned, we've had some great partnerships with school districts in particular, and then also with some nonprofit organizations, and continue to get inquiries about how people can help. I think that as the issue has continued, this now is a creative way that people are looking at how they can help even more by paying for the service of someone else. That really ties into those federal funds that I mentioned that are coming into the community. So there's a lot of resources right now that are out there to help with those service costs.
Yeah, so we're hearing a lot about how the federal government is helping with connectivity. So how do you see your partnership with the federal government's emergency broadband benefit program helping to promote connectivity for low-income families and individuals?
The most important factor in it is awareness, really. I mean, so now that we talk about the digital divide, or we hear so much about that, and I think that the emergency broadband benefit has also gotten a lot of coverage. It's now just connecting how that can help individual families or individual customers. So our partnership is critical. What the emergency broadband benefit does is basically pay for internet service up to $50 a month for families that qualify. And so those funds can be used. We partner with the government, and those funds are used to pay for Comcast internet service at any level. It's not just the Internet Essentials. It's up to $50. And what's interesting is the program lasts as long as the funds do. So that's a little uncertain about if this will be, a 6-month benefit or longer or even shorter. But our ability to reach even more people who have cost as a barrier to use the emergency broadband funding to get that service in their home is critical. It's another piece to the puzzle in terms of getting people connected, especially where that cost is the barrier.
Oh, yeah, and it is critical. I mean, I think you really can't function in today's world without that connectivity. And it's wonderful to hear about the different options, whether it's Internet Essentials or something really sponsored by someone else, so it's free, or this government funding, which is also helping. And so we're really grateful to be a part of your efforts to help spread the word so that we can all play a role in helping ensure that our community and people in our communities are getting the internet service they need to, be involved in the way we all want to be involved. So to that end, how can our listeners help?
Really, there are two main things that people can do to make a huge difference. First is to really understand the issue. Like I said, understand what it means in your own community. Is it the internet service? Or is it the affordability? What is the primary reason people aren't connected? So understanding that, because that really, like I mentioned, leads to different types of solutions. And then the second thing listeners can do is really be an advocate in your local community for what needs to be done. As I mentioned, the resources are coming in like never before. And so there's a really prime opportunity for us to make a huge difference by advocating for those funds to be used by our local governments to address what those barriers may be. So is it to pay for a sponsorship program, or is it to get devices into the hands of people who don't have them? So it's really about really understanding the issue at that grassroots level and being an advocate for the solution that best fits that issue.
Yeah, well, that's super helpful. And as I mentioned, we're going to be connecting to some resources that we'll post as a link underneath this Facebook Live. And we'll have information on Internet Essentials and the emergency broadband. And so you can check out all of these resources. Thank you so much, Stacey Nelson-Kumar from Comcast. We're so grateful to you for taking the time today to help share this important information so that everyone can get connected and that we can all be a part of the change that's needed to help people understand how to do that. So really appreciate your time today, and thank you to Comcast for sharing this helpful information. And thanks to you for tuning in today. I'm Erin Erickson, half of Mom Enough, and here with Stacey Nelson-Kumar. And we'll be doing some more of these, so stay tuned. We'll keep you posted, and make sure to like Mom Enough, follow us on Facebook, or sign up for our newsletter so you can stay up to date with all of this important information to help you be the parent you want to be and the woman you want to be, the parent your children need. Thanks so much for tuning in today.
Thank you.